G'day guys, and welcome back to another Aussie Reviews. And behind us, we have got a bit of a unicorn. We've got a 2005 BA RTV. And again, you just don't see these things, a lifted Falcon, locked rear end, and this one, I'll tell you, it's got an even bigger party trick because it's a V8. They did make a few rare V8s, and yeah, this particular one, it's in beautiful shape. Lift up that bonnet, you got the Barra220 and 220 kilowatts, 470 Newton meters. This thing is just an absolute unicorn. It is so cool to see. It's crazy. I can't believe they made it. So yeah, we're gonna review it, we're gonna drive it, we're gonna launch it, and let's find out what this RTV is actually all about. Guys, so in this RTV, and I have been looking for a clean example RTV for what feels like years, generations even, and to find something like this, it really truly is a unicorn. And especially the fact this one has got the Barra V8 up front. And yes, I say the Barra V8 because that is a thing. Look it up. It's not a Boss. It's a 5.4 liter. These things were in like the LTDs, I think the Fairlanes, I believe it was. Yeah, just not too common, but they were around. Now, what really is the RTV? Well, it stands for Rugged Terrain Vehicle. And essentially it was based off like an XL Falcon farm ute. And they just made this thing more capable. I think they really wanted to sort of try and compete with some of the four-wheel drive market. This isn't a four-wheel drive, but it does have a rear diff locker. Obviously, they raised the suspension quite a bit, and it's fairly capable to a limit off-road. You could get a whole bunch of different options in these things, you know, from just the standard petrol Barra to LPG to rare V8s like this one. You've got the 4-speed automatic in this. You could get it into manual, and you could even get these things spec'd out as a column shift and have a bench seat, which I have one. Very cool. It's not an RTV, but I love a bench seat. Now, some of the goodies this thing got, obviously we got improved front suspension, rear suspension. So they raised the front 67.5 millimeters and 80 millimeters in the back. It's got 1-ton suspension, so you know it's beefed up here. It gives this RTV a total of 215 millimeters of ground clearance, and when you see it next to a regular ute, like, it does almost look like a monster truck. You know, it's not as high as some four-wheel drives, but for a ute, an Aussie ute, this thing is lifted. We had a 30 mil wider track on this, upgraded rear axle. Obviously we got the diff lock on here as well. It also got a heavy duty radiator and underbody protection. So again, you see some videos of these things going off-road. It's pretty impressive how capable they actually are. And when you're on the inside, you know, it's just like any Falcon. You know, this one, it's got some leather seats in here. You know, the wheel feels a little bit nicer. It's not your XL, this particular one, but you know, it's not far off. And you know, all of these Falcons, they have that similar feel, which it's bare bones, but it just gets the job done. And at the end of the day, you know, these things were workhorses, and the RTV was no different. Now, power out of that V8 Barra 220 up front, as the name states, 220 kilowatts from factory. And we're talking 470 Newton meters of torque. So look, not a huge amount in today's numbers, but again, back in the day, that was a healthy amount of power. This thing's got an exhaust system, it's got an intake, and that's it. But dude, you step on it, you can hear this thing's a V8. It's got that torque, and it's truly just something special cruising down the road, this thing. Now, the RTV was introduced in 2003, so just after the BA was released, and it only unfortunately went to the BF generation. So 2008 is when they finished it. I believe it was only Series 1 BFs, but these things were just cool. I would have loved to have seen an FG RTV, like, I just would have, but I can understand how niche of a vehicle this was. And the fact that they even made these things, again, it's so cool. Like a 5.4 liter V8, you know, rear wheel drive, jacked up with a rear diff lock. Like, it's just kind of, you look at it on paper and you're like, what the, they actually made these things in production? It wasn't just a concept. They did cool things back in the early 2000s, you know, not like today where they're so safety and almost no cool ideas get through. It's, yeah, that magical time period, you know, late 90s, early 2000s, they just said, hey, let's do it. And this RTV was one of those cool cars that actually made it to production. And, yeah, to see one, to be able to experience one like this today and show you guys, it is cool. And that's a crazy thing, guys, too, because, you know, nowadays it's four-wheel drive, this, four-wheel drive. Everything has to be a four-wheel drive, or people don't even want to look at it. And, you know, look, to an extent, a four-wheel drive is obviously going to perform a little bit better, like, you know, if you're in soft sand and stuff like that. But 90% of the stuff you do in those utes, this thing is going to do just as bloody good. Like, 90% easily. Again, some of the videos I've seen, they're doing better than the bloody four-wheel drives that are there with them. So, you know, these things are cool. It's a shame we lost this industry, because who else was doing crazy utes like this? Australia was the kingpin, like the OG of this kind of vehicle. And yeah, I've got the VZ ute. I've got a BA Falcon myself, column shift 3-seater, and I absolutely love these things. And it's just so sad that we've moved away from that, and it's just everything's imported now. Everything's so cookie cutter, like the same. These things definitely, you know, they had so much more charm and character to them. Absolutely. And hey, they were built well. This thing's still out on the road, 260,000 Ks, man. Looking good, driving well. You can't beat these. Listen to the burbles too, guys. That is so cool. It is a little bit wet out here today, but thankfully we're in an RTV, guys, so it doesn't matter. Wow, I was not expecting it to sound as good as it does. You know, hey, look, I used to own a Boss 260 XR8. The sound's phenomenal, but hey, the Barra220, slapping exhaust on this old girl, dude, she sounds lovely, lovely. Almost hit a bin chicken there, lad. Wow. Dude, what was that thing doing? Now, guys, the owner, I think, is actually planning on selling this, too. So, if you're interested, I'll leave his information down below. He really doesn't want to part with this thing, but I think just certain situations are adding up. So, again, if you're interested, these things are very rare. Again, I'll leave his details in the description. You can contact him there. And again, guys, if you're enjoying this content, make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, leave a comment. It's how I get to travel around, find these unicorns, because again, like stuff like this, you don't see it. And yeah, it's too cool. Alrighty guys, it is time for the 0 to 100 powered by C-Tech. We are going to reset the draggy. I'm just going to put it in performance mode and see what this thing gets. So we'll turn the AC off as well, give it its best chance. Here we go. It's a big old thing, I'll tell you what, man. And yeah, she makes a great sound, but taking this thing to the limit, it's something interesting. Let's see what the time was. Alrighty, now 0 to 100 was done in 8.2 seconds, and I know that is not quick. This thing could probably get a quicker time. It has just downpoured. We're on a rough road. It's, you know what I mean. I didn't give it probably the most hectic launch either, but it's slippery out here today. So, hey, and we never said this thing was fast. Like, it's not meant to be fast. It's got the Barra220. Like, it's just grunty. It's just torquey. And yeah, it's the speed factor is non-existent in this. It sounds great. I think it looks pretty cool. It's capable, and yeah, that's where it finishes. But I love this thing, man. So cool. Yeah, the old RTV, mate. The old Barra XL Falcons. You know, these are the ones you see still out on the road kicking. You know. It was, these were truly something special. And just thinking about it now out loud, you know, could you have imagined if the AU had kicked off this? An AU RTV would have been the single most indestructible vehicle ever created. Like, that really would have been something wild. And, yeah, these BAs, they're nearly just as capable. You see them on the road. I've got one. It's almost 300,000 Ks, still going. It's, yeah, Aussie engineering marvel, you know. They've got quirks. You got to look after the bodies. But, hey, you do the basics. You drive them right. You treat them right. They just keep going and going and going. It's, yeah, truly crazy. Now, guys, I'm going to finish the video off here today. What can we say? The RTV. This thing is just cool. It is so cool. It's so crazy. Like, how did they make this thing? Who was in the boardroom and said, yep, let's do it. Let's put the Barra220 V8 up front, give it a diff locker, lift it up, you know, 100 mil almost. It's just something so crazy, but they still did it. And I love that. I love weird, quirky vehicles like this. It's so cool. It's so Aussie. And I got nothing bad to say about this. It's just cool. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe. We'll see you on the next one.